start with your pass defense. Obviously gave up some big shots to Baylor. So what you do in the open week to try to rectify a little bit of that?
Well, we did a couple things to, and let me start by saying this. That our plan going into Baylor was, 240 yards rushing. We knew what they were, and really plan wise, and it's 100% on me. We took a shot and we missed. They out executed us, and we were trying to be aggressive. And then when you do that, you got to be able to cover, and we weren't able to get that done. A couple of ways that are continue to show up with how people attack us. That's some of the things we got to decide what we can live with, what we can't, and simplify those things for some of our younger players.
You have to strike a balance this week between giving your guys a break because they've been through a grind of 6 straight games and all the work that you want to do and need to get done before you play TCU.
Well,
was there a balance you had to strike between those two things? Because obviously they're going on.
I mean, you have to. I mean, guys, being physically beat up is one thing. Being mentally beat up is another. We had a run there where we played at a pretty high level at times, and we lost that really in the last game and then a half of the game before. So when I start to see that, you start trying to, you're trying to do things, like the Baylor game I mentioned, that you have to. What's the balance between taking off physically and mentally, and you got to do both while still improving on what you're trying to. And so the way that the short answer for your question is just getting back to basics.
It just looked like the energy level for Baylor was nowhere anywhere close to what it was for Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah.
So you take that in the back of your mind. Okay, these guys are a little bit fatigued mentally, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's anytime you play 6 in a row, and five of those 6 are down to really 12 points. That's mentally taxing on your players because they do put so much into it, and it can go either way at any point in the game, and it doesn't go their way. And so that's something that that really kind of wore us down a little bit.
No sacks against Baylor. Was that the way they attacked you more than the way you attacked them? No sacks against Baylor. Was that more the way they attacked you than the way you attacked them?
Yeah, I mean it was a little bit of both. They had a good plan, and we come into it with an aggressive plan. And after the second play of the game, you start, well, maybe I have to back off this a little bit. But then you start seeing how you're being protected, how you're being attacked, and so there's ways that they eliminated our front, whether it's by the protection or by the design of the pass play. So it's either max protect, take a long time, or quick game, don't take very long. Both of those really kind of neutralize your front, which is a credit to them. It's a good plan. And in both those scenarios, you got to cover, and the other you got to cover and tackle in short area, and we didn't do a good job of those.
Neil talked about some of the true freshmen you guys are playing. In open week, I'd imagine it's a good time to get them even further advanced. St. McLeod, Edward Versternen, some of those guys. Just talk about what you're seeing out of them and how much you're starting to really sort of push them to get on the field.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it's there for, and those are guys that I've always thought about it. How you look at a first-year player, and I'm not going to say a freshman, I'm just saying a first-year player, no matter what their scenario is that it's usually 4 to 6 games, and that's how long. And this is my opinion, but that's how long it takes for the game to start to really kind of slow down. And now they start to see, okay, all right, this is how not only how I play, how I practice, but how I watch film, how I study my opponent, and all those things start to become habits. Because you think about a lot of those players, take a St. McLeod, take a Eddie V. They've never had to do that. They don't. And so getting here in the summer or the spring, getting acclimated to every bit of that takes time. And so when you can get a break at that point and have a bye week to do those things, then you really kind of, or you hope you see a jump in their progression, in their development, which is quite honestly not all the time fair to young guys. To be, even some of the guys that are second year coming off of COVID year, the amount of snaps, it's not necessarily what you want a guy in that scenario to be playing that many snaps, and if when you don't see the fruits of that till you get down the road a little bit, but it is what it is. But it's good to get those guys in a bye week the reps they need, and then just knowing that when they're in the game, there's certain things that you cannot do, and that's okay. That's fine. Get them in a position to make plays. That's what our job is.
I guess Baylor for you is kind of a dry run because the urge for this week is to stop the run with TCU. Then you look at the tape and you see all the downfield plays they hit in the passing game against Oklahoma. Kind of the same deal, right?
Yeah, I mean it's offense in the Big 12. I mean it's running backs are extremely talented. Offensive line's good. Receivers are good. And Duggan's got a big arm. It's no different than Baylor. I think threw the ball a little bit better than they had. We left some guys on probably some situations we didn't need to, and they were hot. They were hot in the passing game. So that being said, I mean those are things you got to plan for and prepare for. I think you got to just say, hey, which one can beat you, and that's where you got to start how you gonna attack them.
Just watching on TV again. I'm not watching the coaches' tape. It looked like in their passes, a lot of them just 50-50 balls that their kid just made a play on.
Yep, and they call it 50-50 for a reason. It could go either way, but that's when they're throwing those. That's exactly what they're saying is if I can get you in this situation, that my guy is going to go up and beat your guy, and having those running backs back there sometimes is going to put you in that situation. You have to do that, and it's straight up 50-50, and you got to compete for the football.
They're only 3-3, but they've scored at least 27 points in every game this year. Until the Baylor game, you guys had allowed 30 or less in every game. Is there a certain number that you guys try to set as a defense of the points allowed, that you don't want to give up any more than a certain amount of number going into a game, or just want to just play a solid all around game?
Zero's perfect. It's pretty good. I'll take that one. No, I mean you try to say, hey, anytime you face an explosive offense, you're trying to protect the goal line. You can't protect the uprights all the time. They're explosive. They're going to make some plays. And what you hope to, and where Baylor, where we really didn't, was he didn't protect the goal line, because that's 6 points, 7 points, how you going to look at it, versus 3. And if we can just continuously, put the game in the hands of a kicker, I've always liked, not necessarily this team, but just in my career, that's where you like your odds. So there's no point, you start. I think you kind of get your kids in a panic if you start to say, hey, we got to be this point or less, because then if for some reason if it goes over that, then how are they looking at it? Oh, we missed our total. You don't want to put them in that situation. So I think it's just, hey, we got to protect against touchdowns.
Is there any sense though that maybe just based on the way that TCU's been scoring this year compared to years past, it might be more of a high scoring offensive shootout than like a defensive game that you would be used to against them?
I mean, you hope not. That's not the standard of play defensively that we want to set, and obviously not 2 Saturdays ago, or Saturday before last. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. We hope, that it doesn't. But we're not going to ever go into any game saying, well, we got to, I knew Oklahoma was an explosive offense. It could be at times, but we went in fully expected to do close to what we did, other than win the game. So we go into every game expecting that. Now, how the flow of the game turns out, how we have to adjust, how we have to adjust to negative plays and sudden changes, those are all in the flow of the game. So, no, I'm never going to go into one saying, well, it's going to be a shootout. We have a standard of play, one of our main things we focus on is scoring defense, and we're going to go into every game holding the team to as few points as possible.
Historically, you've had takeaways. This year they haven't come. Is it just a strange year? Is there some reason why you haven't been able to get the ball bounce the way you want it?
Well, I mean, it's a couple of things. Number one, we've got to compete for more balls in the air. We have had really one at taking advantage of opportunity in a huge situation that was Oklahoma, and that worked out exactly how you talk about tip balls. That worked out exactly how you want it to. Balls tipped up, we make a pick. If you go back to that, we chart these. We talk about missed opportunities. And in a game like that, well, if the first guy if he catches the ball, he probably scores. Well, the other guy catches the tip, and we get possession of the ball. Well, everybody's excited, but when you go back and look at the coach's film, you're like, in a 3-point game, well, there's one play that's the difference. A sequence against Baylor, we go down, and it ends up going, I think, 17. You come back. It's 17-7. You come back on that, and the very next, 20. It ends up 21-7. But you come back after the second score of the game, and there's a bootleg in there to where if we get a tip ball, there is nobody to the end zone. All right, and it's 14-7 at that point. Okay, if that ball hits literally right there, I mean, if we catch it, we score. It's a tie ball game. All right. The next one was an issue. It was on us. We missed a personnel. All right. We get that one to third down. We miss the personnel. We end up in a bad situation. If we force a field goal there, 17-14, which we very easily could have done. The very next drive, we have a tip. Josh Chandler tips an RPO, and the ball goes straight up. Guy catches it. He walks in the end zone. So now you're looking at a difference in probably a total of 3 feet. And just catching the football. That it's a totally dynamic, totally different football game. Even though we're not playing very good. It's a totally different football game at halftime. All right, and the kids are viewing it different. We're viewing it different with how we adjust. So the reason I'm telling you that is an example of how close some of those have been, and that's been throughout the year. I can go back to Maryland. I can go back all these close games, and really, normally it doesn't stick out as much if the ball is swinging the other way and you're winning those 3-point games. You're not looking at it the same way, but you are now because you're like, hey, these in close games, this is the difference. Competing for footballs in the air, we got to get them. And then we have to get the ball out more when the ball's down the field in the run game. And some of it is just kind of one of those years. And I'll use Baylor as an example. So Baylor has put probably more, in the coaches' film I've watched, put probably more, and I'm sure their coaches will tell you this, probably more footballs on the ground than any team in the Big 12. And they've gotten all but one of them back. That's just the ball just, and they do a good job. Their offensive line does a good job of chasing the football, and that's why. Quarterback fumbles, running back fumbles, they're there to fall on it. You're talking a totally different football team at 5-1, 6-1, whatever they are, if they lose half of those in the games they've played. So, sometimes the ball bounces the other way.
Jordan, you're going to see a lot of good run defense coming up. Running games, I'm sorry, but your defense has been just as good against the run. Starting this week, that give you confidence that building on that offensive run games, that gets you back to the success the numbers you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we got to continue to be good at what we're good at, and that gives us a chance. I'll watch a lot of football on Saturday, being a Saturday off, and that's the biggest part of all of our offenses coming up. Some of the best backs, not only in the Big 12, but in college football, are in our next 4 games really. So huge challenge, but we got to continue to be. That's something we've been pretty good at. I know if you can't stop the run, it's kind of hard to win. Kind of hard to control the game. So we got to just continue to be good at what we've improve on what we've been good at.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
You good?
Go ahead, Mike. Finish your question.
Just what do you change, or how do you change for beneficial purposes with Jackie and Spear instead of Scotty?
I mean, you just got to, it's a new position. So anytime that you put a guy in a different position, you just got to make sure that that you're giving him a chance to be successful. And you gotta make sure that you're not overloading scheme onto that guy when that's not something that you really need to do at that position. It needs to be a guy that's freed up. It needs to be a guy that's in the wide part of the field majority of the time, and make the ball go to him and let him make plays. And so if we can do that, Jackie will have a chance to be really successful. You know, there's twice I put him in a bad situation last Saturday that maybe could have affected one score play. One was a big first down that if the ball's in there, he probably has a chance to compete for it. But like I said, we on some of the things, especially the second play of the game, it was a touchdown, and took a shot and we missed.